Hi there, my name is Cristina Magro, and I am an executive coach working with cybersecurity professionals. Today, I have invited a very special guest to talk about a topic close to my heart. Every day I come across many talented InfoSec professionals feeling like they are never just about qualified enough or technical enough, no matter how many years of experience they have in the industry. And on the other hand, I also meet a lot of technical people who don't know how to find their first job in cybersecurity or how to progress. So I invited today's guest as I've been following him for a while, and he's a real inspiration to me. He has a very unique story, and he's the living proof that when you follow your passion, you end up in the right place. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Jason Blanchard. Hi, Jason.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on today.
And Jason is the Content and Community Director at Black Hills Information Security. So Jason, you have done it all. Store owner, filmmaker, marketer, probably 1,000 other things. What can you tell us about your path and how did you end up working in the cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, so like a long time ago, I was a high school photographer, like on the yearbook team. And up until that point, I'd never really figured out, like, I didn't like math, I didn't like English, I didn't like those things. But I started taking pictures for the yearbook and I was like, I like this. Like, I really like this. Like, I enjoyed it. And then when I was realizing that I wasn't going to be cut out for college, I found my way to the Army. And the Army recruiter was like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a cameraman. And I was like, I don't think we have that. And a couple of days later, the recruiter came back and was like, we actually have cameramen in the Army. And I was like, oh, great. So what happens is I joined the Army to be a camera person. And then from there, I get out of the Army. I end up going to film school. I started teaching at film school. I started teaching editing. I got a chance to work on a movie. I started doing my own projects on the side. Like anything that I thought was interesting, I just did. Like I was like, oh, this seems really cool. I'll do this. Then I always liked comic books, and I started helping the local comic book store guy market his business because I loved marketing. And I was like, so Howard, how's business? And he's like, it's really good. And I was like, would you like a partner? And so I became a partner at the same time. I owned a comic book store, teacher, and all this stuff. And when we owned a comic book store, we were like, well, I always kidded that it was a advertising company that also sold comics. Mm-hmm. Like, we were just always doing things. And so that got me a chance to meet people and network. And because of that, I got a chance to work in the comic book industry, film industry. And ended up running something called Free Comic Book Day for the comic book industry. So essentially what happened was I was just like, oh, this really seems really cool. And this seems really cool. And this seems really cool. But everything at its core was just always creating content and building community. Mm-hmm. So no matter what I did, it was always creating content, building community. And then what happened was my wife is in the cybersecurity industry. And she saw a job posting on Twitter or something for the content or marketing manager for SANS. And so I was like, huh, that seems interesting. So we had, over the last, we'd been married for 16 years and our careers had always gone in two different directions. And this was an opportunity to bring those two things together. And I was like, that seems cool. So I applied, went through like a 2-month interview process. Most of you never worked with SANS, but it was a really long interview process. And during that time, they're like, you have a very diverse background. I was like, thank you. Some people could see my background as like what do you do? But they were able to see like, okay, I see what you do. You create content, you build community. So that's what I did for SANS, create content, build community. And then John Strand at Black Hills Information Security saw what I was doing. And he's like, I have a need for that. So he asked me to come be the content community director for Black Hills. So that's what I do on a daily basis. Like we create and produce content and we build, it's my kitty in the background. We create and produce content and we build and foster community. Like that's what we do at our core. So that's a long way of saying I joined the Army to be a camera person, but through the course of just following the things that I thought were interesting at the time. But looking back on the career, you can see how, well, teaching helps what I do now, and making videos for the military helps with what I do now, and owning a comic book store and bringing people together around a singular, like, around comics helps what I do now. So it isn't like it's all the things build to what I do today.
Mm-hmm. And this is so important in today's job market, to be able to identify all these skills acquired in careers that maybe look so different from each other, but then they have a silver lining, and you were able to identify this silver lining for yourself and make a career out of it.
Yeah, it's one of the things I like when we do these live streams on job hunting and even LinkedIn profile reviews. When we get to the About Me section, like, people don't realize how important the About Me section is. It's the esoteric question of, like, who are you? Like, and people are like, I don't know who I am. So the question I always ask people is, like, when you are paid, what do you translate money into?
Yeah.
Because so at my core, I create content and I build community. My daughter is making some lunch in the background if you hear the microwave going. She's like looking at me like she got a big giggle on her face.
Home working.
Yeah. So what I ask people, it's like, what do you do at your core? And this one viewer of the live stream had the best response I've ever seen. She said, I am fantastic in the middle of a crisis, but I'm even better at preventing one. And I was like, that's awesome. Like,
that's awesome. I mean, who would hire someone like that?
Yeah. And what's cool is that, like, even though you might have a diverse background, or like, there is who you are at your core, and you take that with you wherever you go.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. And talking back about going back to your silver lining, building communities, why is it so important for you to build communities in this industry?
So back in the comic book store days, like, what we realized is that somebody would come in and they would, like, I want to read Green Lantern. You're like, cool. And so you'd give them Green Lantern. And then a few weeks later, they're in the store and they're reading Green Lantern, and another person comes in and they're reading Green Lantern. And what we would do is, like, hey, you read Green Lantern and you read Green Lantern. Why don't you meet each other? And so what happened was the comic book store became the place for people to meet each other.
Yeah.
And so over this common interest. And so the reason why community is so important is because sometimes you feel alone. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one that cares about this thing. And when you realize that there's other people that care about those things, and then you can start talking about those things, and then you can start learning from the other person who knows that thing, and you can start teaching, and, like, all of it comes together, and you're like, oh, I'm not alone. And when you can create this place or this opportunity for people to get to know each other and create community, like, it's so cool to see people shine because they realize they're not alone. There's other people who care about what they care about. When I used to encourage sales instructors, like, to give a webcast, and like, well, what's the topic? I was like, either go real broad and something that everyone can understand, or so niche that only 8 people will care about it. And they're like, well, why either? I was like, in the middle of the road, you're like, hey, who cares about middle of the road? But if you find those 8 people that really care about your niche thing, you just found 8 new best friends.
Yeah.
And the same thing in the InfoSec industry. Like, when you find the other people who care about the same thing that you care about, like, you can just build community off of that and get to know each other. And from there, like, that's your network. That's your future career opportunities. My wife and I and our family, we have this saying, says, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's the belief that the people who surround you lead you where you go in the future. So in community, you get to meet those people, and then they become your future. Like, the person you meet today might be the reason you get a job opportunity 9 years from now. The person you meet today might be the reason why you learn the thing that you learn that takes you on the career path that you go on. So it's so important to be around community and around people. And during COVID times, it feels like you're so isolated. So that's why we've done what we can to create community online.
Yeah, This is so powerful. And I don't remember who said that you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So make sure these 5 people are the best of the best, really. So
Yeah.
it's really, really great. And you just mentioned briefly about your Twitch channel for job hunting. And this is another idea that I loved about your activity and your work. How is that going, and why did you decide it was time for you to share this knowledge?
Yeah. So a few years ago at DerbyCon, I gave a talk called "How to Social Engineer Your Way into Your Dream Job," and it was really just what happened was like I looked at hackers and I looked at how they hack into an organization, like from the reconnaissance to the exploitation to all these things. And I was like, well, that's job hunting.
Yeah.
Like it's the reconnaissance, it's the finding a vulnerability, that could be a potential hiring manager or something. And then developing your exploit, that's your resume, that's your cover letter, and then the post exploitations where you go for the interview process. And then like the whole thing, I was like, it's job hunting. So I gave a talk and I was able to help people understand that they have these abilities. Like if you can do this for job hunting. And all of a sudden it did really well online. So it got onto YouTube and I think it's at 20,000 views right now. And people started messaging me. What's cool is I'd be at a conference. Someone's like, are you the job hunting guy? And I was like, yes. And so one of the things is like when we saw, my wife and I, when we saw COVID happening, and when we saw people that we knew lose their jobs, and we thought InfoSec was going to be okay, like it's isolated, there's such a huge, demand for it. And then all of a sudden I saw my friends just like, I was like, oh crap. And so we decided, let's put a live stream together where we teach people how to job hunt. Because there's one thing about having a webcast or something where it's a one-time thing where people can watch. It's another thing to show up every Tuesday night, every Friday during the hunt process. So what we're doing is we're trying to build a community of job hunters to encourage each other, to keep each other going. And what's cool is Tuesday night, so this past Tuesday night, one of the viewers who had been on the live stream for about 2.5 months, job hunting the entire time, keep coming back, keep asking advice, and really just staying motivated.
Yeah.
They finally said, I got the job.
Wow.
And that was Tuesday night. They came on, they said, I just want to let you all know I got the job. And all of us were like, yeah, high five. Yeah. And because we're up to 12 now as of today, 12 people who have found jobs. Not, yeah. And it's that encouragement, that showing back up, the staying focused, because job hunting sucks. It's a lot of rejection. It's a lot of what we've learned is you go on 3 interviews and they call you back and they're like, we decided to go with someone else. And you're like, it's like,
lucky if they call you back, because most of the times you don't hear. And that's, So it's a very stressful situation these people are in. And it's great that you are able to provide this community and this encouragement. So it's really amazing.
Yeah, what's cool is in the Twitch chat, where people converse back and forth with me, is that they'll ask a question and the other people will start answering. And I'll be finishing up what I'm doing and I'll look and I'm like, oh, okay, you guys already took care of it. Let's move on. So
these are sorted. You don't need me here.
Yeah. I'm just the catalyst that brings people together right now. So
that's awesome. And I mean, COVID aside, I mean, we know that COVID has brought additional challenges, but in your experience, what are some of the challenges in today's job market for cybersecurity professionals?
So some of the challenges I'm seeing is not necessarily the competition, but it's the people don't know how to job hunt. Like what happens is, what most people do is they sit down to a blank sheet and they're like, all right, what should my resume look like? And they start writing it and they're like, maybe I'll add this, maybe I'll add this. And then once they've written this document that they hope will get them a job, like they don't know, they're not sure. They they then take it and then just use the same one to apply every single place they go to. And that's not what we talk about. We talk about, one of the things that we encourage is develop your resume while you're job hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of sitting down to a blank sheet of paper and trying to figure out what to put on it, like start job hunting and see what people are looking for. And then from there, put your resume together.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, put a tailored resume together for the job that you're actually trying to get. So instead of just like, here's one resume, hopefully it works. It's like, well, if they're asking for this, 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 and this, and this, and I know how to do this, 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 and this, then just put that on the resume.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you see the people in the live stream are like, oh, okay. So the challenges that I see is that people don't know how to job hunt. Like that's not a thing that was taught. They know how to protect networks. They know how to do penetration tests. They know how to work with management. They know how to do all these things, but they don't know how to like explain that to people. So my background in marketing, my background in promotion, my background in helping people, essentially sell people to, like to sell the concept, sell the skills, sell the abilities. Because I used to have to do that in the comic books where like, this writer is this, so this is why you should like them. So all that background comes into play when when job hunting comes in, because you're just trying to sell your skills, sell your ability to do what you do.
And it's great also this kind of message to give back ownership to people of their job hunt, because I think sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm going to send the CV and then this is not up to me. I am completely powerless in this process. But with your tips and suggestions, you are demonstrating that actually people have got to own this process. They've got to play a very, very active role into the job hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. One of I get some pushback from people who are like, is this too much? Like, what if people don't like this? I'm like, then don't work for them.
No.
Like we always tell people to be a bright green resume. Mm-hmm. Like, cause imagine a stack of printed out white resumes and somehow your green resume is in that stack. Like be the bright green fluorescent resume. So that even though they may not pick you, they can't not see you. Like it's like flip, what is this bright green thing sitting right here? And so we encourage people to go a little beyond the normal job hunt, like reach out to the hiring managers, reach out to the talent acquisition people, reach out to people who work at the company and ask for an informal interview. Mm-hmm. Like it's not even like, oh, I don't want an interview for the job. I just want to know what it's like to work here. And all of a sudden, what we've seen is that when people introduce themselves as a human being to other human beings, they stop being just a plain piece of paper and become a human being that is also applying. And I think a lot of people just go like, well, I applied, wait to hear back. No, go knock on the door, like call, send a fax. And I do mean send a fax, because if that fax machine starts working, someone's gonna be like, what the heck is that thing?
Around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what is the very first thing to consider when looking for a job in cybersecurity, in your opinion?
Know what you want.
Yeah.
Like when you go and you see a job post and they say, here's our requirements for an applicant, I always tell people like, well, what are your requirements of an organization? Like, do you have a list? They have a list. They're like, we want 5 years experience. We want this types of this. We want this. Do you have a list? And on your list, like what matters to you and in what order does it matter to you? Like if you care about the mission, you're like, I don't care about salary. Mission is what's most important. Then that's at the top. If you don't want to travel ever, then that's at the top. Like if you're okay with 75% travel, then that's fine. If you don't want more than a 15-minute commute, then put that on the list. Because what happens is you don't have a list of what you're looking for. So you're at the mercy of like, these people offered me a job. So you take it and all of a sudden now you're commuting 2 hours a day. Yeah. The culture isn't what you wanted. The mission sucks. Like and you're doing the job, you're like, oh, and they're paying me money, I guess this is great, but like you don't like any of it. So the first thing that we encourage people to do is make a list of what you're looking for. And my wife has this really cool one. She said she doesn't want to be the smartest person in the room,
Oh, wow.
but
Nice.
she also doesn't want to be the dumbest person in the room.
Fair enough.
Like, so she's like, I want to be in like the 80 percentile range of smartest person. And for her, that was important because she wanted people around her that could teach her and help her grow in her own skills and abilities. So.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that you're mentioning this. Honestly, this is amazing because I realized even with my own clients, we are not used anymore to state what we want and what we desire for ourselves. We are like, we think that we need to settle for everything, but that's not the case. And especially even later in life, I mean, not only for graduates, it's important to know what you want and know where you want to start from in the cybersecurity industry, but also later in life, because as humans, we change, we evolve, our priorities change, our values change. You are not who you were 15 years ago. And I think we forget that. So it's extremely important what you're saying.
Yeah, and like when people look back on my career and they're like, you have a very diverse background, sometimes people say it as an insult. Like, you have a very diverse background. I'm like, no, like you said, I changed.
Yeah.
As I was changing and evolving what I enjoyed and what I did, I chose careers that I wanted to do. I always tell people, like, 12-year-old Jason, like if I was able to go back to 12-year-old Jason and say, you're going to work in the comic book industry, you're going to own a comic book store, you're going to work with computer hackers, you're going to get to like organize hacking tournaments all over the world. I'm like, that's so cool. And so, you know, I've gotten a chance to do every dream job I could imagine. It's because I just picked it.
Yeah, I think your CV is the perfect example of CV of a person who knew what he wanted all along. So, and he just ran with it, and that's all.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well,
Yes.
What else?
We keep hearing, I have to ask you this. We keep hearing about the skills gap in cybersecurity and the fact that we need more people in cybersecurity. But at the same time, I see a lot of people out there looking for jobs.
Yeah.
So what is going on?
Yes. So we come across this on the live stream where we'll do an entry level search. Like someone's like, hey, I'm a threat hunter, entry level, just graduated college. I'm cool. And we would do a search for entry level threat hunting jobs. And it will say like 8 years of experience and 4 years of this. I'm like, like the hiring managers, the HR people, like they want unicorns.
Yeah.
And unicorns don't exist. And what we normally encourage people to do is, like, if you meet one or two of the requirements or one or two of the, you know, what they're looking for, apply anyway. Like at least introduce yourself, at least start building a relationship with this company, those people. Because like you just see in cybersecurity, like, well, you need to have 6 years of Python and 4 years of Perl and like 2 years of this. And like, you should be able to be a penetration tester. And like, wow, that sucks. So a lot of times the expectation of the company, and what we're seeing too is like the people who are putting these job requirements together, they don't actually understand what they're putting on the job requirements. They're just like, here's what we've been told we need. So there's that people are job hunting. There's a skills gap. Like it's really I need a unicorn and I need it now, but unicorns don't exist. And so if you do find a unicorn, they're super expensive. So yeah.
No, that makes complete sense. And I think there is this lack of education of hiring managers of the actual requirements of what they can actually expect from today's workforce. But I was also reading some research that especially for women, the women don't apply for a job unless they meet 100% of the requirements, while men tend to apply more if they meet 50% of the requirements. So there is also this kind of bias. of people.
Yeah, and we talk about that on the live stream. My wife, who joins me on Tuesday nights, she's the very first person to say, if you even meet one requirement, apply.
Just apply.
Like, apply. The worst they can say is no.
Mm-hmm.
And what we run across is generally we as human beings say no for someone who's not even in the room. I had this because I work in a lot of times I do a lot of creative work, and I come up with creative things, and I will come up with something that's completely out of the box, or like even I go like, is this too far? And so what I had to stop doing was saying no for the people who weren't in the room. I was like, oh, well, this one executive won't like it, so I'm not even going to pitch it, or this won't be good, so I'm not going to do it. And what a lot of times people is, they see the word strong. The word strong is the worst word in a job requirement. Strong knowledge of, strong like proficiency in, strong, because the word strong is like on a spectrum.
Yeah.
Like what you think is strong is different than what I think is strong. It's different than what the hiring manager thinks is strong. So if you hear anything from today's like interview, what we've encouraged people to do is drop all adjectives off of a job requirement. If it says excellent written and verbal skills, just take off the word excellent, just written and verbal skills. If it says strong knowledge of, just take off the word strong, just say knowledge of. And all of a sudden your imposter syndrome, because that kicks in whenever someone's applying for a job. They're like, ooh, it's strong. Ooh, it's this. Well, I guess I'm strong, but I'm not as strong as somebody else out there, so I'm not going to apply. Just get rid of all the adjectives in the job post, because they don't need to be there. You know why they're there? Because someone like me can't help themselves but add an adjective to something.
Yeah, I love adjectives. Yeah, why not? And this ties perfectly into my next questions, because I was going to talk about imposter syndrome. Because I remember you mentioned in another interview you've done that despite all your experience that you have, all the hours spent on stage speaking, you're still kind of experiencing some imposter syndrome, some shyness. So how do you fight that? Do you have any tips for anyone else going through the same thing?
Yeah, so imposter syndrome, if you don't know what it is that you don't think you're as good as other people think you are. Like it is just this, well, everyone thinks I'm awesome, so I better be even more awesome and work harder so that I can prove to everyone that I'm awesome. And then you do, and then everyone thinks you're awesome. And then you think, well, it's only because I went above and beyond, so next time I have to go above and beyond even more. And it's just this vicious cycle until you just completely fall apart. So what I encourage people to do is run in the direction of your fears. Mm-hmm. If that is a thing that makes you afraid, then go towards it. If public speaking is terrifying, then do it. Like whatever it is that caused you to be afraid, do that thing, because growth is on the other side of that thing. Happiness is literally on the other side of that thing. It is like anything where you're like, oh, I'm afraid to do that. Do it. Yeah. So I have a fear of public speaking, and before I get up on stage and I speak and I present, I normally go and I find a quiet place and I go, why am I doing this? 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 And then all of a sudden, like it's showtime. It's like showtime. And I get up on stage and I get off and I'm like, oh, that was good. It was good. So
yeah. And we are all on the same path. I mean, the more you know, the more you're going to feel like a fraud, like an imposter. So I think you gave an awesome tip. Just go for it, feel the fear, and do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'd like to close with what is next for you and how can people stay in touch and be part of all your activities and your community?
Well, I appreciate that. We're trying what we can to build a community of job hunters. And we do it on twitch.tv/Banjo Crashland. And Banjo Crashland's the name I go by on the hacker community. And really, it's just a jumble up of Jason Blanchard. Like it's Jason Blanchard, letters all mixed up, or Banjo Crashland. So it's an anagram that I just started a long time ago. But we get together Tuesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. So UTC -4 right now because we're in daylight savings time, or And then Fridays from 1 to 3. So like as soon as we're done today, I'm going to get ready and do the live stream. I'm on Twitter. You can find me there. But for the most part, we do the Twitch. You can either spectate or you can hop right in and participate. And what we do is at the beginning, we say, we're doing a live job hunt. And all I need is the title and a city. And then we start job hunting. And we'll find those jobs that people can do a search for. But the people spectate and go like, oh, I never thought about that. Or I never thought that I could do a search like that. Or I never knew I could do this. And that's why we've had 12 people find jobs so far. And we know it's higher, but those are only 12 people that have come back to say like specifically, I got a job and I'm excited to let you all know. So.
And these are not recording, so recorded. So people.
That is correct. We don't record any of them because we get real into the deep OSINT, so open source intelligence gathering, and we will literally track down a hiring manager's like Instagram and Twitter account, and we will run Twitter ads targeting those people of like your LinkedIn account, so that way whenever they get on Twitter, they'll see like your ad. Like we get real in the weeds, and so because we do that, we don't save the recordings just for people's own identity's sake. So.
Fair enough, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Then thank you so much, Jason, for your time. This was absolutely brilliant, and you gave some fantastic tips there. And I'm going to put all of your links in the description box so people can get in touch and follow your Twitch stream and everything else. And thank you so much.
Awesome. And good luck with the job hunt and good luck with the career development. And thank you, Christine, for having me on.
Thank you so much, Jason, and thank you so much for watching.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.